Does that fix the volume? All right, we're checking to see if this fixes the volume. Okay, excellent. We have volume. All right, welcome to the roll-in cooler. This is not a walk-in cooler, obviously. I do apologize for the background noise. This is a working, running locker cooler. So let's see, and I think I want the one that's behind here. Nope, I don't want the one that's behind there. I want the one that's over here. Here we go. Oh, come on. There we go. Woo-wee. There we go. All right. It was a heavy beast, and only half of them. I'm excited, folks. I'm excited. This is the first. It's not the first pork. Okay, so we've got 2 tubs here. This is for anything that we're curing. This is for anything that we're not curing. Oh, I might need one more tub than that, but we'll figure it out as we go. Okay, so here we go. We got half a hog here. We are going to begin by taking the best fat of this hog out of there, which is right here, our leaf fat. And this stuff is the bee's knees. So we're just going to carefully pull this out with the membrane. We might want a knife. Hey, what do you know? I've got 2. Okay. Yeah, it's really in there. And if we pull it out right, we should be able to get it all. Without really cutting into the meat. We might need to let it thaw a little bit. It was below freezing in there, and while the meat isn't frozen, everything is very, very cold. Come on. There we go. All right. Come on. There we go. All right, we're pulling the leaf fat out. That's what we're doing for anybody who's new coming into the chat here. All right. And it's just going to all pull out, hopefully, in one big chunk. Come on. There we go. All right. Mostly just the fat. Got a little bit of meat there. Oh, well. All right, folks coming in here. Let's see. We've got John. Hello, John. Hello, Wolfpack. All right. Excellent. Okay, and there we go. That pulled away our leaf fat. Now what this is the premium meat in the animal. We're going to render this down. We're going to turn this into lardo, your cooking lard. And, oh, a little extra there. Bonus. basically everything that comes out in one fell swoop there is what you want to hold on to, but I like to go back through and pick a little extra out here and there, as long as I'm not pulling meat away with it, and as long as it's just pulling away, bonus. Okay, now the next step is, if I remember correctly, we want to cut this thing into the primals. You've got basically 4 primals per half a hog. So let's see here. What I'm looking for is the little discs between the vertebrae, and I'm looking for, as you're going down the spine, they're all going to be parallel to each other until you get to one that's not parallel and it's a little bit canted like this way. So here we've got disc, 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 and then I've got to turn the knife to run parallel with this disc, meaning it's not parallel with that one. So we're going to cut into the last one that's parallel right here. And if I do it right, we're going to cut down between the vertebrae. And we're not going to be able to cut all the way through necessarily. Okay, so right there. But we can cut around the spine then. Next step is right here. I want to pull away the belly. So I'm going to cut where the belly meets the leg. If you look closely, you can almost see or imagine there being seams there. Okay, so I'm looking on the inside here, and I see that if I pull back some of this, okay, I already cut into the flesh there, so we're going to just go with it right where I made that initial cut, and we're just going to go with it, and we are going to basically pull this corner where the belly meets up with the pelvis. We're going to pull that. We're going to cut straight down along where the belly meets up with the leg here and the pelvis. And we're just going to cut. Okay, so maybe I could have cut a little less, but that's fine. We're just going to take it. We're going to take it all. We'll figure it out in the end. It'll all come out in the wash. And I'm going to just cut along. There we go. Now I'm cutting right. Now I'm going to stop. Oh, what's going on here? There we go. Sorry about that. My phone's telling me to plug it in. There we go. Something happened there? Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. We are back. Well, here it didn't freeze. Okay, so I've cut the belly away from the leg, and what we're doing next is we are going to fold that up and away. No, I didn't cut it far enough. Let's do that a little further up. I'm going to cut that up and away from here so that I can get along this cut. We're basically cutting the rear leg of the pig off, pelvis and leg. This is going to give us our ham. If we want to make prosciutto, whatever we want to do with this, this is going to be one primal cut, and then we're going to have ribs here, and then we're going to have belly, and we're going to have the Boston ham and the picnic ham. Various other cuts in there if you want them. And we're not going to go into all of the different possible cuts. We're going to basically be doing what I want to do with this particular pig, and that's about it. Okay, so now we're going to just go ahead and cut straight down from where that second to last vertebrae in the pelvis is. And what that is going to do for us is completely separate this primal cut, this quarter, if you would, of this half hog from the rest of it. Now, the cool thing is I didn't have to cut through any bone. Cutting through that disc right there between the vertebrae allowed me to just pull this right off from there. Sometimes what you got to do is you got to kind of hyperextend it like that and pull it off. But in this case, I didn't have to do that. That's awesome. I'm going to set this over here on this other NSF stainless steel table. Always go butchering with refreshments. It is thirsty work sometimes. Okay. So you have to forgive me if I mess this up, if I do anything wrong. You know, take this with a grain of salt. This isn't meant to be a butchery class. This is just you out here with me having a good time in the garage while we cut up a pig. Lots of fun. All right, folks, what's going on here? Hey, Shelly. All right. And I'm just cutting out some of the diaphragm. I cut out more diaphragm than some people do. Some people leave, you know, a good chunk of the diaphragm in there. And unfortunately, I shouldn't say I do it. Unfortunately, with these pigs, I wasn't really watching what I was doing. We were trying to get them done. We were trying to do it fast. It was cold, and I messed up. So I cut the diaphragm out, too much of it out, meaning I removed the skirt steak. I know. It's terrible. But I'm going to be a little more careful next time. And that's part of the process. That's part of the journey is, you know, you make a mistake, you learn from it. Sometimes way after the fact, you realize, oh, I didn't want to do that. And next time you won't. You'll do it the way that you actually want to do it. But sometimes you don't know how you're going to want to do something until you've done it a few times. That's a lesson I've been learning out here is, you know, sometimes you just don't know. All right, I'm just kind of fiddling around. I'm not jumping right into this like I should be. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to find where we make the next cut up here. So if you like a lot of bacon, you're going to want to cut 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're going to want to cut between ribs 4 and 5. And what we're going to do here is find that, oh, is that it? Is that a disc I can cut through or no? Aha, there we go. Little bit of a, there we go, sort of. Being careful here. I think my worst nightmare would be I slip and really cut myself bad on a live, and then I've got to run away to go wash it out and stitch it up or something, and I've left you all here just, where'd he go? So I guess if I do run away, pray, and Mrs. Freewater will probably come out and take over and tell you what's going on. All right, I am hitting a wall here. There's a mental block. It's not allowing me to remember how to do this. Now, I know there is one way I could do this. I'm not sure that that's how I want to do this. But I can't just get through that disc here. So am I remembering this wrong? Huh. All right, so we can always use the saw, and that's what we're going to have to do. So we're just going to cut down between the 4th and 5th rib. We're going to come straight out like so. And oh, there we go. All right, and because I'm not wearing chainmail, and yes, that's an actual thing, butchers will wear a chainmail suit, so as they're pulling a knife back toward them, if they slip and slice themselves, it's going to hit the chainmail and not hurt them. Since I'm not doing that, I'm trying to be more careful and a little less aggressive. Okay. Let me come around here, follow this. Back on here, and we're just going to kind of go for it. Nice. We lined it up, folks. Now, I'm going to turn this puppy over because sometimes it's just really hard to get these two cuts to line up if you're not looking at them. So we're going to line those up, and nice. Go. And if we cut all of the meat and all of the cartilage, we should be able to take this guy. There we go. Nice. Voila. We're going to take this guy over here, set him on the stainless steel table I have set aside for such a thing. And 1 second, I'll be right back. Just got to make some room here. Okay, so far, so good. No saw has been needed. We will probably need that a little bit later. We'll see. There is a way to do this, by the way. Where did that come from? Has that just been sitting there the whole time? What am I thinking? Okay, there is a way to do this, by the way, without using a saw at all. And the saw is super helpful, but sometimes you just take a cleaver and then you're going to carefully, maybe with your hand or maybe with a mallet, rubber mallet, make your cuts through the bone with this. But it's got to be a good cleaver. You can't just go buy some $15 cleaver and go whacking on stuff. And you're not supposed to, like, you know, if you get a bone cleaver, that's one thing, but your common household, you know, kitchen cleaver that comes with your knife set is not meant to be bashing against bone. However, you can carefully place it on there. And then with a mallet, break through bone with even just a household cleaver. A decent one, a decent one. It's got to be some good steel. And then be prepared, you know how to sharpen your knives. That's something that's very, very important if you're getting into this at all, is just know how to sharpen your knives. Now, we're going to use the saw tonight because I want to cut through ribs. I want to cut through the ribs, and I definitely don't want to be cleaving through the ribs. So we are going to do this. I'm going to look at what I think would be a nice, you could do this one of two ways. You could look at what you think is going to be a nice rack of ribs, or what you think is going to be a nice, what would that be called? Like a loin chop with a bone in and a bit of a tomahawk kind of bone in. Well, we don't want the full bone, so it's not going to be a tomahawk, but we're going to, I think I like that right there. Right there. Nice. Yes, that is it right there. I like where the fat lines up. In fact, let me just turn this around. You've got to see this. This is awesome. Fold that back up so it doesn't get dirty. look at this. Actually, let me bring this up here. Whoa! All right. Now, this would be on a if this was beef, this would be your ribeye. Look at that. That big, nice fat line there. Nice marbling. You can see it if I get it even closer. Not the big chunk of fat there, but all of this marbling right there. Beautiful. So I'm making my cut right here. Okay. So we got all this nice fat here that'll be in this chop. We might make it a roast. We might even make it back bacon. I think I might be doing back bacon with this because you can basically turn the whole pig into bacon. In fact, today we think of bacon as the belly, right? That's where the bacon comes from. This hunk of meat right here. No. It wasn't always that way. It used to be your entire pig was your bacon because they cured it all. They cured it all with salt and aging, and it was purportedly excellent, wonderful. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this guy right here. And that doesn't quite line up. So what I'm going to do instead is, really what I got to do is I got to find out, I got to make the decision. What's going to be a nice chop right here, bone-in chop right here, okay, right about there on that side. What about on this side? Where do I want to make that cut? And I think because I want more bacon, we're going to make it right there. Carefully. There we go. Hit my knife against the stainless steel. Stainless steel is extremely hard. Ridiculously. I had no idea how hard stainless steel is. Now, anybody who's cut through stainless steel probably knows. But until recently, I had not. All right, so then what we want to do is I want to bring this cut up on this side, that first mark that I made, and this line. And all I'm going to do then, careful, is bring these two lines together. Okay? And by the way, in case you've never done this before, whether you're cutting carpet or you're cutting a straight line across the carcass of a pig, and you've got to meet up at another point, a precise point, it is very helpful to not focus on where you're cutting, but rather look at where you're cutting to. And just trust your body, and you'll make it. Not every time perfectly, but more often than not, look at where you're cutting to, and you make that initial cut, and you'll get there. It's wild. I always want to double check myself, and I don't want to trust that my body will follow to where my eye is looking, but it works. It's kind of like when you're driving. Look at where you want to go. Don't look at the beginning of a curve in the road. Look up the road to where you want to go, and you will just begin to follow that line. Okay, reaching the bone here, going all the way across, and then, by the way, I'm giving a lot of instructions here. I'm narrating what I'm doing here. Hopefully that's helpful for some people. If you're ever going to do a side of pork, half a hog, or your own hogs. But I will say I'm not an expert. I've only done this a number of times over the years. So you might do what I'm doing here and it turns out awful and you go, yeah. Well, that's why I say take it with a grain of salt. Okay, we're just here hanging out in the garage, enjoying some fine pork cutting. Okay, so then I want to take it over, flip it over to the bone side, where the bones are clearly visible, and I want to cut through. I've not been watching the comments, folks. I do apologize. Talking and doing this at the same time takes a lot of focus. So I will stop here once I get through the ribs. And now you want to cut through one rib at a time. I'll stop here once I get through the ribs. So I'm not trying to cut more than through one rib at a time. And then what you want to do is you want to pull back and up on them, separate them. I almost forgot to do that. There we go. Get through another rib. Only 7 to go, or something like that. Yep, only 7 to go. So sometimes you begin to cut into the next one before you finish cutting through one, but I'll be trying to cut through all 9 or 10 of them at the same time. And it really helps, I'm pulling this board back, it really helps to focus on cutting one direction. All right, we're going to switch over here, do this. So, just kind of give it a light pressure in one direction, forward or backward, depending on your saw. I can go either way with this one. I can cut in both directions, but I find that that is exhausting sometimes. So I typically cut on the forward stroke. Some people like to cut on the back stroke. That's cool too. Whatever you gotta do to get through that bone. Then when we get through the bone, stop. Don't do any more cutting with your saw. Saws are made for bone. Knives are made for flesh, fat, cartilage, soft things. Do not try to cut through bone with your knife. Be careful when you're cutting around bone so that you're not really, scraping that bone with your knife. You're going to dull the edge, which is why you need one of these guys. And cutting through half a hog, you shouldn't even have to do this, but it's fun, right? Keep your fingers above the guard there, just in case. Don't do what I do, do what I say. I haven't tried this knife yet tonight, so we might as well see how it's doing. That knife, by the way, was not getting dull at all, but it's always fun to hone your knives. Okay, then, here we go. This puppy right here, what do we want to do first? Do we want to do the bacon first, or do we want to do the loin first? We're probably going to pull bacon out of both of them, so, the belly first or the loin. Let's do, this. We're going to put the belly down there because the belly is fun. This is also fun. I get a kick out of this, guys. That's really what it comes down to for me is I get such a kick out of this. We're going to cut the last rib out of here, okay, right here. We're going to cut this last little rib out. I can't remember why, but I know it's a thing. So we're just cutting right along that rib. And we're going to cut it right along the other side of that rib. Not too deep. These ribs, they're narrow. They look wide, but then as far as their depth going into the meat, they're narrow. So don't cut too deep there. And we're going to go underneath this guy, just kind of filleting it like you would a fish, basically. Cutting around those bones. Getting the Getting the bone freed up there. Watch your fingers. These knives, if you buy good knives, they are ridiculously sharp. Every time I've cut myself, I didn't even feel it, which is good. I'd rather not feel myself cutting my finger to the bone. There we go. We're just going to kind of pull that out. Bingo. Good for the stew. Good for the stock pot. So we're going to throw that in there with the leaf fat. And now, how do we want to do this? It's my pig. I guess we can do it however we want. I'm just going to pull this kind of gristly stuff away here. It's membrane of some sort. Stock pot. More stuff for the stock pot. All right. Nothing needs to go to waste. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do then. I've made my decision. We're going to cut through this disc. It's right there above that rib that I just tore out of there. And we are gonna, you know what? I said I would read comments, so I should probably stop for a second here. Okay. So cool. Thank you. Hello, guys. You get to see the knife skills. Yeah. If we're unlucky tonight, you get to see me use that knife on myself accidentally. Chainmail suit, good idea. Absolutely. And someday I will probably invest in one. It won't protect my hands from cutting, though. Let's see here. Just plain interest in watching you. Well, thank you. Thank you. That's sweet. Loin. You called it. You called loin, and that's what we're doing. Nice, Shelly. Okay. All right. So the rest of the loin we are doing in dedication to Shelly. Okay. So what I want to do is cut perpendicular to the spine. Okay. I want to be cutting right off, straight off the spine. Unfortunately, the ribs are going to get in my way because they're at about this angle. Okay. So coming off the spine is impossible unless you remove that rib like I did. Now I remember why I did it. I do remember some things from doing this over the years. Okay, so now we've got a rib here, we've got a rib here, and this is the angle that they're going at. And if anybody has tried to cut a rack of ribs at home, they know it's so frustrating because right up here, well, those ribs, they're going perpendicular right off the spine, but then you get down here, it changes direction on you. So in order to make a straight perpendicular cut, which is just going to make a nice, neat chunk over here, and a nice, neat chunk over here, not like this lopsided chunk, what we're going to do is we're going to cut from this side down to the bottom of this other rib, which is going to give us, what do you know? A perpendicular cut straight off the spine. It works every time. In fact, you could go, let's imagine we were going to cut right here. Okay, well, you start up on this side of the spine, or you start up on this side of this rib. So here's this rib going right through here. So I'm going to start up closest to that side, and then I'm going to cut straight down, and it's going to end up putting me right next to the tip of the next rib over. Just gives you a nice looking piece of meat. In whatever you do, in whatever you are doing, don't forget to do something for the eye. Is it going to really matter? Is it going to, in the end, is it really going to matter if this is a nice straight cut? No, but look how beautiful that looks. Okay, that versus no. We don't want that. Okay, we're almost through here. let's get this cut apart. I'm taking way too long here. I'm talking too much. All right, there we go. I think we've made it through all of that cooler turned back on. Sorry about that. I think we made it through all of the meat, all of the gristle, any connective tissues there. Maybe not. Try this right up in there. All right, here we go. Bada bing, bada bang, bada boom. Oh, yep, we didn't quite get it all, but that's okay. We got a little tear there. No big deal. What is this called? Bonus for the stock pot. There we go. Then we'll tear there. Bonus for the stock pot. And let's see. What do I want to do with this? Got those dorsals coming out there. All right. So we've got two cuts here. We could very easily make boneless chops. We could with a little more difficulty, but not too difficult. We could make bone-in chops. So typically, what we're going to do here, though, is we're going to cut these ribs out. We're going to go ahead and cut the ribs out, and we're going to cut very close to the bone rather than leaving a nice fat meat cap on here, because we're going to turn this into bacon. This is a European style bacon called back bacon, I believe. You know, at the end of the day, if you make something, if you make a cut and you prepare it well and it tastes good, does it really matter what it's called? Is it going to taste differently because you called it the correct, you use the appropriate nomenclature? No. Tastes exactly the same. In fact, it might taste better because you're not so worried about getting everything right. And you focus on putting a little more love into your food. I truly believe that if you love to cook, to bake, to grill, to smoke, versus you're just doing it because you have to. So we're just filleting here, kind of like trying to get close to that bone. I'm not cutting into the bone, but I feel my knife rubbing against the bones as I'm cutting around them. Nice. There we go. I'm super excited about this. This is fun. Okay. We're going to go the other way, keeping our hand away from the sharp thing. When I was in the Army, it was hilarious how many things had a sign on it or a warning label that said, front this direction, like claymore mines, right? Pack around these claymore mines, and God forbid you ever have to use them, but you got to carry them everywhere. And if you pull that claymore mine out, it says, front this way. I mean, the thing is shaped. There's an obvious front to it, but they still have to put a label on there, right? I suppose in the heat of battle, you could need to see that sign, perhaps being unfamiliar or something with it. But hey, I don't know. I just got a kick out of how many things in the military had signs that it's like, well, no duh. It's good though, It's good to be safe. All right. I don't mind taking my time with this because we are working in tight quarters here, and I really don't want to slice through a finger accidentally thinking that it was the pork. And this is going to be bacon, so I want as much on the bacon as possible. And when I think about it, I do like ribs, and I'll probably take the other half hog that we have for ourselves, and we'll probably, what we'll do with that is get a nice little rack of ribs out of it. This will still be fine. We can still smoke this up and eat it. It's just going to be a little lean, a little light on the meat. All right, now this is a mess. What in the world? This side has... Okay, so we're just going to cut around it, I guess. There we go. Okay, I see what's going on here. And in that case, there we go. Come on. So this is the spine, by the way. Half of it, because when you cut a pig in half, you cut it right down along the spine. Okay, a little dorsal, but not like a fully formed one. That's a little petite dorsal. I'll show you what I'm talking about in a second here. But there's a point where the pig grows basically these spines out of its spine, and they are narrow and stick way out. They don't make it through the muscle layer or the fat layer. They don't make it all the way through the muscle layer. They stop at about the fat layer. Okay. Where are we now? There we go. Oh. Go underneath. Save the meat. And by the way, I'm not really following a particular butchery method as much as I'm trying to reduce waste, trying to use as much of the pig as we can for things like pan frying, roasting, and braising, because those are the three building blocks of any cooking with any meat: pan frying, braising, and roasting. If you know what type of muscle you're dealing with, whether it's a tougher muscle or a more tender muscle, you're gonna know. Okay, coming back at me now. There we go. Okay, so let me clean these up, these dorsals here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. They're fascinating little things that you'll never know a pig has unless you try to give it a back massage or you cut it open. I forget how loud that cooler is until it finally shuts off. My thumb is frozen. I can barely feel it. Yes, this piggy was one cold piggy. Okay, so take a quick look here. Hopefully I'm not grossing anybody out yet. But here is the spine. So you've got half a spine there, cut right down the center. And you've got all these vertebrae right along here. And then you've got this little mini dorsal, this little mini dorsal. There's another little mini dorsal. And then you've got great big giant dorsals. And they just stick right out the back there. I just think it's hilarious. When you open that pig up and you find those, you're like, what the heck? Are you part dinosaur? No. Every pig's got them. So, ribs, Still attached to the spine. Toss them in there. Those are for cooking, smoking, baking, however you want to do it. Slow cook them. Throw them on the smoker or the grill. I particularly like to dry rub them. Smoke them for about 2 hours at about 225, 250, and then turn the grill up or the smoker up to 300 to 350. It's not a science. It's not an exact science, but I basically want to, excuse me, I basically want to get them smoked for about 2 hours with a dry rub on them. That'll create a nice smoke bark there, and then put them in the smoker or leave them in the smoker, but turn it up to about 300, 325, 350, somewhere in there. The lower the temperature, the longer you're going to have to leave them in there. But by this time, once you're turning it up, you're wrapping them in, I know it's not good for health reasons and all of that. And some people are sensitive to it, but foil, wrap it in aluminum foil, and they're going to stay nice and tender and just kind of now self-based with the steam and their own juices and be amazing. I know a lot of people that do not like ribs. Like my ribs, I use the Fat Boy rib seasoning. I don't think it's a rib seasoning, but I use the Fat Boy barbecue seasoning, and that's it. I just put that on there, throw the ribs on there, smoke them for 2 hours, wrap them in the foil, and then smoke them at 300, which you don't need to smoke them then, but about 300 to 350, depending on how fast you want them. So if it's been, you left them on there for an extra hour, you need to get them done now because people are hungry. Okay, 350 for as long as it takes for them to be good and tender and not quite fall off the bone, but very close. You do want to be able to pick up a bone and gnaw on a little bit. It's also really good for your health. But I've had people that don't like ribs told me they've never enjoyed ribs their entire life. They try those and they are hooked. They're like, that's it. That's all they needed. That's all they needed. Don't even put barbecue sauce on them. They're great just like that. So I can't really take all the credit. I just figured it out that a lot of people like the Fat Boy seasoning, dry rub. All right, chops it. Thank you, Glitter. Comment for the algo. I appreciate that. Boiled dinner with those ribs. Oh yeah, that's another great way to go. Boiled dinner, I assume you're meaning some potatoes, veggies, stuff like that, along with the ribs. What do you mean there? Maybe I should ask that instead of try to assume what I think you mean. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to turn this into bacon. The entire thing can be turned into bacon. We don't typically make bacon this way these days, but look at that. That is all going to be bacon. The skin is going to turn nice and crispy. We're going to put this in a salt cure. And I know, you're not supposed to do that. It's heretical to just cure with salt. But our grandparents did it for, hundreds of years that way. And the science is there. I've been looking into the science behind it because I certainly don't want to hurt anybody. My family most of all, who's going to be eating this, but the science is there. It's phenomenal. The way that the salt gets into the meat, and you really only need about 2% salt to the weight of the meat that you're going to be curing. I'm going to get kicked off YouTube by sharing this stuff. They're going to call it misinformation or something. But that's it. About 2% the weight of the piece of meat that you're going to be curing. You put salt on there, and I know. People are going to say, oh, you're going to get botulism, you're going to die. When you look at the cases of botulism out there, the vast majority of them have nothing to do with people who are curing properly using just salt and maybe just salt and sugar. So when you do look at what cases of botulism are there on record, what was the cause? Oftentimes, I mean, there's a vast majority of it that's this kind of fermented tribal food. A lot of these cases happen in Alaska, where they put, and now they don't all do this, but they take some fish, or they take some avian meat, some bird, and they put it in a black trash bag and they ferment it for a while, and then and that's a tribal delicacy. But when you put it in a black trash bag, it traps all that water in there, and water is the carrier for bacteria. And if the water is trapped in there, then you are trapping bacteria in there, and you're not actually pulling the water and the bacteria away from the meat, which is what curing is supposed to do. I wasn't planning on talking about this tonight, but it's fascinating when you look at it. What happens to meat when it comes in contact with salt, how the salt pulls water out of the meat. And if you're not allowing that to happen, then yeah, you're going to have this kind of homemade kind of botulism case on your hands, because that's not how good fermentation or curing ought to be done. Don't do it in a black trash. Don't do it in a black plastic trash bag. All right. I'm doing this one backwards. I'm pulling the dorsal away from the flesh, away from the dorsal side of the spine here this time. Attempting to. We've got a lot of meat here on this side of these dorsals. I must have been cutting a little crooked with the saw. That's all right. All right. Sorry, I've got to focus here because I'm getting really close to my thumb. My thumb and the tip of the knife are working together in concert, so I've got to be watching. Let me get this done. And we don't want to pull it back. I just pricked myself. Fun. Okay. I'm shutting up for a second again. There we go. There's no blood. It was just a prick. There we go. Good enough. Now we're going to go from this side. Sorry about that. I don't know if that came across your guys' radar at all. I got a phone call. Thought I had turned that off. Thought I put it on Do Not Disturb, but phone call still made it through. All right, are we all still here? Everybody here? Wow. You guys are hanging with me. Okay, so what we're going to do here with this side of the loin is we're going to cut this down. We're just going to make some boneless chops, I think. We could just make a chop roast. We could make a loin roast. Okay. Filleting the flesh away from the bone. Come on. There we go. Ah! I cut more than I wanted to there. That's all right. This is mine. Nobody else has got to know, except you guys now. Could have just said nothing. No one would have been the wiser. All right. So, now I'm going to cut up on the other side of these bones. Yeah, it's an interesting chunk of meat to cut around. It's an interesting bone to cut around. Okay. So we kind of just have to carefully work around this. Almost there. Shoot. Shoot it. Yep, there we go. I think we made it. There we go. Come on. And we have now pulled the spine out of the, what was that? The front side of the loin or the back side? I forget now. That was the back side. Yeah, back side. And we now have our boneless. You know what we'd probably do with this to clean it up is we'd probably trim here. So we've got our tenderloin right here. There we go. It's coming back to me now. And then if we wanted to make chops, here, I'll make a chop just for the fun of it. Skin on boneless chop. Let's go ahead and take it off this end. Let's clean this end up quick. Make it nice and straight. There we go. That's going in the grind. And then let's do like a, what do you say? 1.5 inch, 2 inches. Okay, 2 inches. There we go. Nice 2-inch chop. I know it's a lot of meat, but it's what we eat. And boneless. So, another thing that we could do here is make a roast out of this, and we could just lightly score the skin in a kind of cross-hatch pattern. And then the other way. That's going to help crisp that skin up. And the best thing about this is there's no basting involved. You're going to cook it like so. You can't see the crosshatch pattern there, but it looks beautiful. At least I would not sure you can see it. But you've got all this huge fat cap on this thing, and this is going to self-baste the meat. So you could braise that, you could roast that. You're going to want to roast this. And that is going to be a thing of beauty. We're just going to clean this off. Salt, pepper. You might not want anything too strong. See here. We're going down there. All right. You might not want anything too crazy because this pork is going to taste amazing. Amazing. All right. Oh, yes, this is the bacon. Totally forgot. Okay. I'm going to have to start separating these so I remember I put the roasting stuff. So if we're going to pan fry it, braise it, or roast it, it's going on the left here. Anything else, I'm putting on the right. Okay, so now we've got our belly. Let's do the belly up. We are going to do the same thing with these ribs. We are going to pull them out, and we're not going to leave a lot of meat on them. These would be what you call your spare ribs, I believe. You could cut them into Louisiana ribs. What I put down there, those were, I believe, your baby back ribs. We're just going to cut right along the tip of these ribs here. And I'm not going very deep. I'm only going about 2 inches just to get under the tip here so then I can pull it back. And to the last rib. There we go. And we're going to go down this rib. I'm going to go right beside it so I can feel it going all the way down. Go underneath it a little. And very carefully because my hand is right there. I'm going to start working back and working my knife sideways here or more perpendicular to the ribs so that I can cut downward and start cutting right along those bones, kind of scraping the bone here. Till I get to there. There we go. And then we're just going to keep following these ribs all the way back. And what's underneath here is going to be our belly bacon, your traditional bacon. So we want to leave as much meat there as possible because I like a meaty bacon. And this is a fat pig, which is good because I like fatty bacon too. but we're going to need a lot of meat on this bacon so that we can offset the amount of fat that we're dealing with here. Okay, I think that was it right there. Is that it? Yeah. Yep, that was it. Okay. Now we're kind of following this cartilage line down here, sort of. Trying to find it. Not cut too much out, but enough. There we go. All right, now if I had left more meat on this side, this would have been a wonderful rack of spare ribs. However, there's hardly anything there. They're still going to smoke up just fine. All right, back to the comments for a second here. Aha, that's what you meant. Okay. Scrap ribs for boiled dinner on the bone. All right. I've never thought of that. I'm just going to cut some stuff off here that's, the blood, which it's not going to hurt anything. Uh-oh. We have a Philip. Philip's back. Was Philip getting into trouble? Oh, careful. All right. Yeah. Okay. Well, can you just make sure he doesn't try to come over here and jump up here? Because that would introduce stuff to the pork that I would rather. Uh-oh. He thinks he sees something, but he wants. Oh, and I've got the meat down here. So, yeah, he should probably really go back for now because he's not going to be able to help himself. He sees meat, he's going to go after it. That stuff you just cut off would work great too. You'll want to cut it up into smaller sections for cooking though. Gotcha. All right. So I'm just kind of cleaning this up. We are going to, boy, didn't need to cut that much. Cut a big slice here, but you know what? This is our bacon. It'll be just fine as it is. And I think what I'm going to do is about cut this in half so that it'll fit. It'll fit in my curing vessel. There we go. So now we've got our bacon, skin on bacon. It's going to be beautiful. Belly, we could do uncured belly as well. Just cook the belly up fresh belly. But I'm kind of getting tired of paying these prices that we're paying for bacon. I'd really like to have our own. And homemade bacon isn't the same as store-bought bacon. It's not always the same. But the thing is, we don't try to raise our own food and grow our own food because it tastes better than what you can get in the store. Sometimes it does, but you got to admit, a lot of times those artificial flavorings, they really taste better. We do it because we know it's better for us. All right. Go. now we've got our bacon there. This piece here. Stock pot. All the little chunks of fat and everything all over the place. Stock pot. I suppose we'll throw these in there too. Nothing wrong with those. All right, so where does that leave us? That leaves us with the front. We're gonna do the back leg last. We're gonna do the front leg next. So what we want to do with the front leg is we want to find the joint. And so what you do with it is you bend this back all the way like that, and you can kind of see where it is articulating. It's one or two spots that you're going to cut. So I'm going to try the first spot that I think it might be, and that's not it. So now it's going to be the second spot. There it is. All right, so what I'm doing there is I'm looking for where the trotter, that's the technical term, I guess there, the trotter, where it bends and it articulates at 2 points. So you've got one up closer to the hoof and one back further from the hoof. And we are going to cut right along that one. And then we want to kind of put downward pressure on it right here. And the more pressure you put on it, the easier it's going to be to find that separation and cut around it. There we go. And without a saw, we can remove the trotter from the rest of the leg. And some of it is just exploratory work with your knife. Being careful, but kind of just sticking that knife in there, moving it around, seeing what you feel. There we go. Cutting right through that joint. No bones that I had to cut through. Maybe a little cartilage, but mostly just skin. And this is, there's hardly any meat in there. In fact, I am going to use this hoof. Because we weren't able to get all the hair off, I'm going to use this hoof for a dog treat. So we'll set that over there. And now, that hair was clean, but I'm just going to make sure I don't have any hair on my hands as I continue to cut this front leg and shoulder up. I'll be right back with you in a second here. Well, with scalding this guy, we got most of the hair. These were hairy, hairy pigs. Lots of bristles. But we didn't get them all, so I don't know. We're probably going to go ahead and just run with it because it's our food. But if we're the customers, which it's not, I don't do that kind of stuff here, just so you know. We're not USDA approved or inspected or certified or any of that stuff. Maybe someday. But just looking here. Dogs love pig feet. They do indeed. So I have 20 meat chickens that I was raising for my dogs, but I don't know if I can do it. They're so cute. And then Mrs. Freewarden says, that's chicken math for you. The first one is the hardest. The first one is the hardest. I have butchered all my life, all of my young life, taking the chickens' heads off, bleeding them, whatever method you choose. That first one is the one that you're trying to remember to keep breathing while you're doing it. And I don't care who you are, that first one, I guarantee you, they're nervous because it's a big deal. You are taking life so that another life in the hierarchy of life can go on and live another day. Okay, so how do we want to do this? I want to cut right here. There we go. Leave it to a guy. Leave it to a guy to talk so clinically about life, right? But it is a difficult thing. So I'm not going to tell you what to do because I can't be there to butcher those chickens with you or for you. But you can do it. If that's what you want to do. If that's what you decided to do. You can do it. So I'm just cutting through some cartilage here, right through that disc between the vertebrae. The hardest thing for me to butcher wasn't the pigs, wasn't the chickens, wasn't the ducks. I think the ducks were the second hardest thing because they are actually kind of cute. It wasn't the quail that was the hardest. The quail were easy. Just take a pair of scissors and snip and they're done. It was the lambs. And when I say lamb, I'm talking about one that's just under a year old. But it's difficult because the proper way to dispatch a lamb, now there's going to be this is going to be controversial, but it is actually believed the proper way to dispatch a lamb is to cut its throat and bleed it while it's, it sounds gruesome, but it's one quick cut and they bleed out and they fall asleep and they don't even fight until they go into death throes. They don't move. They just lie there, and it's such a peaceful passing. It's amazing. I've had people over to butcher and to watch this, and they don't struggle. They don't fight. They don't try to get up and run around. As long as you're there, keeping them in a submissive position. It's like, I think they feel that initial cut and then nothing. And they slowly just fall asleep. It's pretty amazing, but it's also rather startling. Very startling. The method in which you do it, it seems very, very violent. But it's actually a kind thing. It's a kindness to give an animal a quick, clean, painless death after it's had a good life, doing what it's naturally been raised or been designed to be and do. So if you're, and I follow the philosophy of butchering an animal according to its nature, or dispatching an animal according to its nature. So why wouldn't you shoot a sheep? Well, because science. It's actually believed that shooting an animal in the head is the best way when they are a highly cognitive animal, when they have a high functioning brain, like a pig. So you shoot a pig in the brain. And if you shoot a pig in the brain, it feels no pain. It goes down so quickly. But there's actually evidence that shooting a lamb in the brain or a sheep in the brain may be more traumatic for that animal than one quick cut to the throat, which it doesn't feel because its nerve endings are different than ours. So we think about that as being horrible, but the lamb doesn't have the same nerve endings there like we do. It doesn't feel it like we would. And a shot to the brain, while you may feel that's less traumatic for you, is actually more traumatic, it's believed, more traumatic for the animal when it's a lamb, because they also have this very hard head, right? What do lambs do? What do sheep do? Even the females, they go out there and they play around headbutting each other. And so basically, what it is a sheep can withstand a heck of a lot more trauma to the head than you would think. Because their heads are designed to butt into each other at high speeds. Whereas pigs, they're not meant to headbutt each other. They don't. There we go, nice, right through there. So again, I'm just using the saw to cut through bone. And then when it comes time to cutting through the flesh, we're doing something different. All right, how do I want to do this now? I think we're going to cut along this bone here to get there. Focusing again here as I'm cutting in close proximity to my fingers. Trying to work on this bone and get this out. There we go. So that's really what I'm about when I make my decisions on how I'm going to butcher an animal. I'm trying to figure out what is the way that will dispatch this animal with the least trauma, the least pain. And yeah, sometimes that does cause me a little more discomfort, but I take that discomfort on for the sake of the animal so that they are not in pain and suffering and discomfort. Besides, who's benefiting from the death of that animal? Not the animal. So we try to give them the best life possible while they are in our care. There we go, soup bone. Or just stock pot. Maybe we'll do some trimming on that to pull something out for the grinder for the sausage. clean up this, clean up some of this bloody flesh here. There we go. And there's a vein, so we want to pull the vein out. Anything bloody or veiny or anything like that, kind of just cleaning that up. All right, so we pulled that bone out. Now we are going to, I think, cut the other side out here. Cutting right along those ribs, just about 2 inches in, so we can get up here and around those, what do they call those, false ribs? I can't remember. Go, and we're just going to cut right down here along the sternum. We don't want to cut into the sternum. Let's pull back and cut outside the sternum, cartilage there. I love cooking bones down and pulling the collagen out for our joint and bone health. Don't like cutting a piece of cartilage off that I'm going to use in something that's going to be pan fried or roasted. I want to braise it. I want to boil it and melt that collagen out of there. It's not very fun chewing through gristle. Okay, and there we go. We are almost done pulling those front ribs and the sternum out. There we are. So we got spine, ribs, sternum. More stuff for the boil dinner, right? We'll cut it down to size. All right. So, if I remember correctly, Boston picnic. Now it's deboned, so it's just a matter of finding how to unknit the animal. I don't remember. I do not remember. So I'm thinking it's kind of a, this. Okay, there's the, is this where the copula is? I think that's where the copula is. So I've already done all the hard work. And we're going to just unknit the animal. There we go. What's going on? Low battery on this, 5%. Okay. It sure is a lot of work doing this. No wonder butchers charge so much. Yeah, I mean, it is a lot of work, but yeah, I am also slowing down as I talk, like the wolf pack. I've done a whole half of a pig in like 20 minutes, and I'm a little rusty. So, oh, what's going on here? Ah, yes, the shoulder, the shoulder. Okay, I forgot that was there. I forgot pigs had shoulders. All right, so hello. Go. And we're going to cut this away from the back fat. I believe you can cure this, and they call it copa. I may be completely wrong on that. I'm going to have to refer to my books again. Once again, disclaimer, this is not meant to be taken as anything other than entertainment. I am not a master butcher. Just somebody on the journey to mastering it. I'm sure a master butcher would come along and watch this and go, oh my goodness. That's okay. There we go. Yeah, and I'm doing this one a little differently than I've done any other, because I did take a look at some cool things that you can do with pork that I've never done before, but it requires you to harvest the meat from the carcass in a little different manner. So that's another thing slowing me down is, I promise you, I've done pigs before. I've done lots of pigs, but I've never done a pig like this. So some of it's the same. Some of these things are completely different. All right, did I mess that up by cutting right there? Well, doesn't matter. So here would be, I believe, this is kind of your sirloin cut too. You can use it for that. This is up in the shoulder. There's not as much fat, although on a pig, there's a lot of fat. Just period. There's fat all over these pigs. Thank you. How is that for service? I mean, I say on the live stream, oh, I think the battery's down to 5%. And 1 minute later, she's out here plugging it in for me. That is fantastic. So you know what we're going to do with this? We're going to bone it out away from the shoulder, like I've already started doing. It's going to be more back bacon. We're going to get some. You can get way more bacon out of a pig than you would think. we go. And the meat on this bacon is going to be a little less, but that's fine. Bacon, bacon everywhere. It's got a little bone in it. And I cut away some of the meat that I could have used there, but that's fine. So if I were doing this for other people, I probably wouldn't be cutting so much of this for curing because, I mean, unless they asked for it. Nah, I don't imagine there's a lot of people out there that go to the butcher and ask for cuts so that they can take it home and cure it themselves. Oftentimes they'll just have the butcher do that themselves. Do it there. I'm just cutting some of this out. This will go in the grind just because blood is the primary culprit in any spoilage. So if you're going to have something that spoils, you know, what's one of the things on pork that you're going to basically pull right out of the freezer and fry up? Sausage. So you freeze this. It's not going to spoil. You're not going to have it out long enough to spoil. It's not like you're throwing it on the grill and or the smoker and you're smoking it at 225, 250 for several hours, where it could potentially, and I don't think that it's going to take longer than 4 hours. They leave a wide margin of error there. Okay, we've got some blood in there. That's all right. Now I need to remember, because I don't remember this part. We could do a shank, do an arm roast. We're just going to go for it. We're going to go for it, and if it's a mistake, we'll learn from it. Okay. Probably a big mistake. It's all ruined, folks. The entire pig is ruined. There we go. Maybe not a mistake. Maybe not a mistake at all. Not sure where that joint is, so we're going to take the easy route. When in doubt, pull out the bone saw. There we go. We have an arm roast. Yeah, I'm not in any real big hurry to get through this. And I guess we're only going to be doing one tonight. That's fine. But I'm just not in any big hurry to do this. We have some time. All right, so I think I'm going to need freezer space, or not freezer space, cooler space, because I am going to have some lamb to hang soon. I want to get back on the other side here so I can see. Cut. And what we're trying to do here in separating the Boston from the picnic is we are trying. Ooh, I got off there. That's all right. We'll get back on. How about that? There we go. What I'm trying to do as I separate these two is come right down on the joint so that I can avoid sawing again. I probably could have just left that leg on there. That's all right. And did I do it? I think I did. I got close. Yeah, there we go. So that ball joint there, we're trying to cut the cartilage, separating that, and then there we go. So we've got that ball there that went into the socket, and we just cut the cartilage around it so that we could simply pull them apart. Is that a hair? No. It's just goopy stuff. But when you touch it and pull it away, it looks like a string. Okay. So there's one. And I think we are going to just, let's see here. So we would want to braise this, roast it slowly, something like that, so that we can break down the tough muscle in this area. This animal used its legs extensively. They're tough muscle, and so it needs some long, slow cooking. Okay, there we go. Nice. One more to go. For all those who've stuck with me, I really appreciate that. Can't imagine this is the most exciting thing you've ever seen, and that's fine, but all right. We've got one last thing to do. So similar to the last primal cut where we had a hawk there, we've got this guy, and let's see here. There is a joint right about in here, and I want to cut through that. See where that bends. Basically, okay, now I remember, it's coming back to me. The heel, this is the heel of the pig, believe it or not. These are its toes. So you go back up to the heel, and you're going to come down about 3 inches, if I remember correctly. About 2 to 3 inches. Well, we're just going to have to see. You're going to cut in Yep, looks like it. And then you're going to want to put pressure down. Bingo, we nailed it. And you're going to see that joint again. And if we carefully cut around the joint, here, let me turn it around here for you. Okay, so see, we got those, basically that knuckle bone there. Cut around that, we can get through it, no problem, without having to saw anything. More dog food. All right. Now, this is the cut. One of the things that you can do with the ham is you can make a ham, for one thing, or you could also take this guy and you could cure it and age it for 2 years, hanging in regular room temperatures after the first 3 months of curing and aging, and let it basically cure and age for 2 years, and that would be what you would call prosciutto. Ever seen prosciutto in the store? That's what it is. Then you cut it off and you eat it raw because it is completely cured, safe to eat, and cured indefinitely. We're talking like in any temperature, in any climate, humid or dry, hot or cold. Whether you eat it in 2 years or it's still around when the cosmos come to an end, you are, it's basically cured. Like they've found cured meats like this that are thousands of years old, and I don't know if you'd want to eat them, but they're still preserved. So what I'm doing here is I'm cutting around the pelvic bone. I'm trying to cut that out because that may just be what I decide to do with this. And if nothing else, it'll be a cool chunk of meat hanging in our kitchen. You know, and you can tell when they go bad. Everybody can tell when meat goes bad. You're born with it. It's that smell that makes you not want to be in the same building with that meat. It's that dumpster outside, out behind Taco Bell smell. All right, so I'm just trying to find the bone and carefully cut all the way around it so that we don't lose anything more than what we need to. Oh, come on. This is one of the worst bones if you're boning it the way I am to try to do. So this one is legitimately taking me this long. Okay, so I need to start peeling this back against the bone. Whew. All right, what's going on here? All right, I think I found the edge of it. Here, we're gonna make an incision here because I need to pull this back further. We need to get this entire bone out of here. The problem with this bone being in here is if you do want to make prosciutto, it's going to hinder the salt from getting in there and curing meat. Here we go. All right, Shelly asks, I love pork steak. Where do you get them from? What area? Sirloin. So that would be the front. Is that right? The front part of the loin? Or would you pull it from back here? You know, I'd have to look. I'd have to look at the anatomical map again. You want it to be a more tender area, so common sense tells me that would be closer to the front. And sir designates something closer to the front, doesn't it? It's a good question. I don't know that I know the answer for sure. Yeah, it's delicious either way. All right. This bone, I tell you what. Did I earlier say that there was one particular bone that I was working on that's the hardest? Okay, I take that back if that's the case because this bone is the hardest bone to get cut around. I mean, it's tell you what, it looks so much easier in pictures. What is that? So there was a friend of mine who put me on to a great idea. And that is taking sheep that are getting older that you need to cull and turning them into smutton. Mutton, but the S there for sausage. So you make smutton out of your sheep. The entire thing, just grind it up into sausage, unless you like mutton. And then that probably sounds heretical, but generally, us Americans, we don't eat a lot of mutton. Um, I'm starting to get bored with cutting around that bone. It is quite the thing. right, let's see if we can pull. Okay, how does this move in here? There we go. Feeling for it. Okay, looking around this. I'm not trying to pull the entire bone out. We want to leave all this bone in here. I'm just trying to get to the point where I can pull out the bone in this upper portion of the leg. Let's go. Let's go. So we've got our spine, hip, and upper leg bone. That's all I'm trying to get to. Let me get down here and take a look from below. Try to see what I'm dealing with. Oh, I recognize this muscle. The circular muscle right here means I'm getting close to a joint. So I just got to keep working in that direction. In fact, is that it? Okay, I can feel through the other side of this. So now I just go around it. And I think I just cut a big chunk of meat up, but that's okay because we can trim that off. And I think what I'm going to do with most of what I trim off here, when I trim off the, oh wow, what did I say this was again? Prosciutto. Okay. Yeah, there it is. Right there. Wow. I'm looking at it. I'm staring it in the eye, basically. And I didn't recognize it. So we got to cut around this ball. Okay. Cut around the socket. There we go. Maybe not enough yet. Go. Okay. There we go. Got it. Huh. Okay. Boy, I need a nap after that. That is a hunk. It is a not in a bad way, but a strong smelling piece of meat. And it doesn't remind me of pork, not in that way. Not like your traditional bought from the grocery store pork. Okay, now we're going to take a big chunk of this and just cut it off. And we're going to go around like this and just kind of pretty it up, basically. Whoop. How do I want to do this? Just going to slice a big amount of this off. And we're just going to keep going. So back to the sheep. Yeah, I do want to cull some sheep for the winter, which is pretty traditional when it comes to kind of trying to follow the seasons and farm by the seasons. It's fairly traditional that you would cull a lot of your animals that you don't want to have to raise through the winter. So obviously things like a milk cow, they would keep around and they would put up a barn for. I'm doing nothing but trying to make it look pretty. And make it so it'll fit in our curing vessel. That skin. That's what I'm cutting through right now. That's the last. There we go. All right. How about that? It's got something there. All right, I'm going to have to come back and take a look at this another time, but there we go. I might trim this up a lot more. There's a lot of little flaps hanging in there. Oh, I could just actually pull that right out. Here, let's do a little bit right now. But we're basically done. We're basically done. This is a nice, big old honking hunk of the ham. Yeah, we're going to pull these. We're going to cut these flaps off because when you're curing stuff, you don't want any flappy meat where moisture can hide because bacteria gets in there and you can have big problems. Okay. We're going to leave it there for tonight. I am probably going to come back and trim this up a bunch more. I'm going to have to take a look at some prosciutto and see what they look like whole again. I'm tired. It's hard to think. That was a little bit of a marathon there. This is probably our longest live video by far. So it still says 5 people watching. Man alive. Well, thank you for coming along with me on this marathon. It was a lot of fun. I'm tired though. I got to get this all put away. Some of it cut a little more and bagged up quick. And no offense to you, but talking is slowing me way down. So for tonight, I'm going to say, everybody take care, stay safe. God bless you. Hug somebody. Everything is going to be okay. You know the drill. We'll see y'all later. Thanks for joining me.